of the agenda. So first, I will have just a general presentation, a little bit about offshore sensing, who we are, and Sailbuoy. I think quite a few of you know this already, but for newcomers, hopefully that's some new information. And then after that, Jonas will take over and present the main topic of the webinar, which is the how he's been using Sailbuoy and AI to look at seabirds and the aquaculture and environment, which I think is it's really a bit of a game changer in how research and data collections at sea has been done. First, a little bit about us in offshore sensing. We are a Norwegian-based technology company based in Bergen, in Norway. We started in 2014. Came out of the Norwegian research and environment, the university environment ourselves. We are working with marine drones, marine offshore technology, and our aim is to introduce crewless vessels that can revolutionize how data collection is done. Sailbuoy, we had our main product, Sailbuoy, operates in Europe, North America, South America, Australia, and also in Asia. As you can see some pictures below here as well, where we have for instance, the Sailbuoy with the German Navy. We also have the Sailbuoy in Brazil with the Brazilian Navy. And also there's a picture here with this research environment. So this is our Sailbuoy, which we call this is a picture when it was looking for krill out in the southern oceans. Sailbuoy is as I said, is an unmanned surface vehicle. It has a total weight of about with displacement about 60 kilos, a payload of 10 kilos. It operates normally with a subject on the wind from 1 to 3 knots. It has a long duration. It can go quite for a long time, since it's not dependent on energy for propulsion. It uses the wind. Limitations are more on the marine growth, etc. So we have seen mission durations going up to close to 12 months. Little bit about how it works. It's an easy deployed vessel that you can deploy from either small dinghies or from bigger research vessels or specialized vessels. It's in the same way. It's easy to retrieve. It's also a vessel that you can. It's autonomous. It operates on its own. But you also control it and give commands out of quite simple platforms. You can operate it from a phone. You can operate it from your computer, and then it collects data with the sensors that the owners have been chosen, which has been built in purposely by Offshore Sensing. We pride ourselves in actually keeping it as simple as possible, the navigation control and the data collection, making it flexible to work on most platforms. I think this is a challenge that many of the other participants in this environment maybe don't understand in the same way, because I think the whole reason for having an unmanned surface vessel is to make your operations simpler and easier and more cost efficient. Offshore Sensing and our products, Sailbuoy has of course intellectual property that is protected by IP laws and patents. So any attempts of duplicating that and copying it should be refrained from. A little bit about the product and the applications and the segments. We basically see quite a far reach of various segments. Jonas, who's here today and presenting, falls into the research bucket as I have here, which is a lot of times it's been used for oceanography, biodiversity, environmental data collection, biology, etc. But there's a range of different industries as well that uses Sailbuoy, all the way from defense to marine, offshore energy and offshore wind, and also into defense and surveillance as well. So with that, I will hand over to Jonas, and let's see if we can get this working seamlessly.
All right, thanks. I'll try to share my screen then. Can you see my screen now? Yep. I think you're muted, Max, but I saw a thumbs up. Yeah, okay. Very good. All right. Thanks, Max, a lot for the introduction and for inviting me here. So I'm Jonas Sundberg, and I'm a senior lecturer in ecology and fisheries ecology at the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences. I'm based in Uppsala, Sweden. And I've been working since 2019 with Sailbuoy technology now, and before that also some other USV platforms for data collection. So I will summarize a little bit what I've been doing and what my plans are for this in the future as part of this presentation. Okay, I think I have to switch back between the presentation and here, so yeah, but it works. Okay, so a few words about myself. My main interest is in small pelagic fish as a resource both for fisheries and also for marine top predators. So the role of these small pelagic fish in the ecosystem for multiple ecosystem services, let's say. And also I'm interested in developing new methods for automated and large-scale data collection and analysis. So I'm not only working with drones, I work quite a lot in colonies of seabirds, studying their behavior and demography and population dynamics. And I'm also working quite a bit on research vessels. So the picture down to the right there is the research vessel of our university called the Svea, which we do hydroacoustic surveys and other type of fisheries surveys. And one of the goals with this USV work as well has been to link data we get from USVs with data collected on research vessels from Svea, and maybe in the future also commercial fishing vessels, to work with multiple data collection platforms in concert. And a few words about seabirds, which is one of the entry points to why I'm doing this. So seabirds it's a very diverse and taxonomically spread group of species, around 350 species in the world. And they share the fact that they rely on marine prey, fish or squid or sometimes macrozooplankton. And they're spread in all waters from the Antarctic to the Arctic and also in tropical waters. They are often threatened by competing fisheries as well as other factors, of course. And one of the interesting things here is that while there are generally agreed upon goals for fisheries management, such as the maximum sustainable yield target, there is no such goal for prey abundance or availability to conserve seabirds. So there's a big knowledge gap there, and how much of fish do we actually need to keep in the ocean so these birds can thrive? And what would be sustainable fishing levels that also take into account the need of the birds? So my general research program is about quantifying the prey required for seabirds. And in this research, I've been using Sailbuoy as a platform to collect long-term prey abundance data and also behavior of the prey in parallel to seabird data. And is both population data, demography, and also tracking of seabirds to see their foraging areas around the colonies. And I will provide examples from 3 contrasting ecosystems that all have long-term studies, and now, since more recently, also prey studies around the colony. Those will be Baltic Sea, Sweden, and the Bass Strait in Australia, and Hudson Bay in Canada. And just to introduce these sites really quickly. So this is Baltic Sea. This is where it all started back in 2019. I've been working for very many years with this bird here called the common murre or the common guillemot, depending on where you are in the world. And the location of the colony, it's actually not visible in this little map here because there are so many points. All these yellow points are tracks for the sailbuoy during one season. So this is about how much we can cover in one season. The scale here is approximately 250 kilometers or maybe 300 kilometers from the top to the bottom. And every point here is 10 minutes of survey tracks. So we've been going back and forth around this colony, which is here in the top. And then we've been doing some other survey work also in other parts of the Baltic Sea with the sailbuoy in the same season. And the picture down to the left here is from one of the deployments. One thing to notice about the Baltic Sea is that it's very strongly impacted by humans. There's a lot of people living around this, and it's quite enclosed, as you can see. So there's a lot of impact from agriculture, for example, with nutrient runoff into the sea. So it's a high level of eutrophication in this area. But it's also high impact for fishing since a very long time. Main species here are the sprat, which you can see in the bill of the bird here, and also the Atlantic herring. And in general, the Baltic Sea is a very there's intense human activities. There's a lot of shipping, for example, in this area. And that's one of the reasons why we have chosen to work with the sailbuoy, that it's compared to many other platforms, it can handle other marine traffic quite well. Okay. Then the other area I've been working on with this Sailbuoy is the Bass Strait in Australia. This is the strait between Tasmania and Australia in the Victoria province. And the seabird species in this area is the little penguin. And as you can tell, the waters are quite warm and nice in this area, which simplifies Sailbuoy deployments, of course. So here we're launching it from a surf beach, actually. So we didn't have a boat here, but we just swim out and arrange the deployment that way. And also here we've been sailing around this colony for multiple weeks or months per season to characterize the prey abundance available to these penguins. And then the last example that Max already mentioned is the Hudson Bay study. So this is northern Hudson Bay. The island here is called the Coates Island, and we deployed from a beach also here last summer. And the conditions are really quite different here. There's no ship traffic, which simplifies things, but on the other hand, it's a lot of ice. So we deployed, this was really a lot of ice, and then it gradually disappeared over the season. And the species here is the thick-billed murre or British guillemot that are very closely related to the common guillemot that I'm studying in the Baltic Sea, but still a distinct other species. And I can say that this has been one season already in 2024, and I'm going this summer again, but to another colony, a larger colony of these birds in the same general region. I will provide some examples of data analysis and the analysis we've been doing with examples from this sailbuoy in the Baltic Sea. This is a small video when it's sailing in quite nice conditions and close to the coast. You can see a small video of the deployment procedure here down to the right. You can see that two persons can quite easily handle the platform here from a small jetty. And then in the middle, you see the cruise track for one of the seasons. This is 2020. The background color is the depth, and a yellow line is 1 day of survey. So one thing you can tell right away, it's sometimes it can make a lot of distance, and sometimes it's almost stuck. And the reason to that, of course, is that it's sailing, and sometimes the weather conditions are less optimal for sailing, especially if you want to head in a certain direction. And that's one thing, of course, important to keep in mind in planning missions with a sailbuoy. It will be very difficult to do very straight lines generally. It will make the way, and it can be out for a long time, but it will look a bit like this every time. Just before going much into the details of the sailbuoy data, I just want to introduce the place a little bit more where I'm working and the link to the seabird work. Because on this island of Strakalse, we built this called Karlse Oak Lab, which is a facility for automated monitoring of seabirds in the largest seabird colony on the Baltic Sea. So this is an artificially built tower in the colony where we can hide inside and put up a lot of different types of sensors to study these birds. We have currently video cameras, we have weighing scales, we have weather station, temperature sensors, thermal cam, and audio recording from this year, also these birds. So this is a little bit how it looked like, and all these small ledges here are artificial ledges where the birds are sitting and nesting, and their whole environment is monitored on a very high level of detail, and which makes it easier to connect obviously what the birds are doing. For example, how much fish they're bringing into the ledge and how much fish there are out in the sea at the same time. So this is how it looks like in reality also. And we're taking advantage of this to use automated methods, including machine learning and AI-based methods, to automate a lot of the research on this cliff. So the left example is object detection model, identifying the different birds sitting here now, and including the chicks, and measure the size of the chicks and so on. And the right example is a bird standing on a weighing scale, and the model reading the ring number of that bird, so we know which bird weighed what at which time. And I can talk for hours about this facility, but that's not the purpose today. But now at least you know a little bit the context where we're doing this work on the Sailbuoy. So back to the marine stuff, and the main sensor we're using on this Sailbuoy is an echo sounder. And using echo sounders has been done at least since the 70s, 60s in the fishing industry, and also in for scientific research. And the basic idea, as I'm sure you're all aware of, is that you have an echo sounder, usually on the bottom on a ship, and then you're sending out a high frequency sound source, and then it bounces back, and then you listen to the echo here at the same time. And then you do an interpretation of what was this? Was it the seafloor? Was it a fish? Or was it a submarine? Or something else? So looking at this from a data perspective, to the right here is that on the top you have the sound source, which is the transducer, and then you go deeper and deeper down to, this is milliseconds in this case, but you would translate that to meters if you know the sound speed in water. And then you see the strength of the echo back as a function of time. So the bottom here is the seafloor, and the more shallower one here is either one fish or maybe a small fish school somewhere here in the water column. And then you do this typically like 1 ping per second or 1 ping per 2 seconds, and then from that you can create what you call an echogram, which is time on the x-axis and depth on the y-axis, and then the color here indicates the echo strength. And if you start with this is an example from the Baltic Sea, over 15 minutes or 2 kilometers, approximately 600 pings. And then you have the echo sounder in the top here, obviously. You have the seafloor, wrongly spelled, in the bottom. And then you have the mixed layer depth here. In this case, it's around 70 meters, which is quite typical for the Baltic Sea. Then you actually can see single fish here. So these are individual small fish on which each of them you get something like 5 or 6 hits. You have methane bubbles coming up from the seafloor here, and then you can combine this whole to a bigger picture. So we started looking at 15 minutes. This is 24 hours. And then you start to see a lot of interesting patterns. So if we start with the red line in the bottom, that's actually the seafloor coming up. So we've been moving here, and the seafloor is emerging here around midday, something like that. And it's a very strong echo, and it's getting shallower towards the end of the day. Blue here is more or less empty water. Then in the middle of the night, in the beginning, up to in the upper left corner, you have a lot of fish close to the surface that are feeding. And then they quite quickly, early in the morning, swim down to this mixed layer, about 70 meters here, and hiding also on the seafloor during the day, and then swim up again to forage on close to the surface again. But you actually also have other fish that gather in schools during the day, so around 35 meters, and that's another species of fish here, the stickleback. And fourth thing you see here is this gray, more shaded pattern going from also the surface down to about 45 meters and then up again. and those are migrating plankton, layers of plankton, where we cannot see a single individual, but we can see the volume backscattering from this layer changing in depth over the day, and is the indicate of what is called a diel vertical migration that we see here on the plankton and also the fish in different patterns. And then again, you can combine this into multiple days. And this is an example of 17 days. And this is wrong. We haven't had 25th of June 2025. This is supposed to be 2020 as well. And then you see clearly this oscillating pattern, which is the fish vertical migration here. And you see the sea floor is more shallow sometimes and deeper sometimes. And then you have areas where you have higher abundance of fish, which is more green and yellow, and you have areas with lower abundance of fish. So all of this, in a sense, partly automatically gives us a very, very deep and rich source of information on what is going on in this pelagic ecosystem over time. So I want to mention some of the research frontiers that I'm working with in my group currently. And that's, I will mention 4 examples. One is on spatial temporal prey modeling. One is on detailed behavioral analysis of prey, schooling, and diel vertical migration in relation to seabirds. Ecosystem comparison with unsupervised machine learning methods. Here we're bringing in all the 3 sites where we're doing parallel studies here. And then to automate, develop automated analysis pipelines in edge computing. So start saying something about the spatial temporal prey modeling. So one thing we quite quickly realized when we started doing this is that, I mean, if you compare a time series to a measurement, just a point estimate at one point, you will start to discover that things are not stable. And when we're doing our acoustic surveys, we typically go to one spot at one time, and then we measure how much is here. But when we are visiting the same site multiple times with the Sailbuoy, we realize that it's a lot going on here, and it's changing over time, and we have to take that into account in some way or another. And one of the challenges then is that we have interaction also between space and time. So if we're trying to cover an area, we have things going on that are fundamentally unknown when we start, that we're trying to measure, and we don't measure everything at the same time. So we're just at one spot every time with the Sailbuoy. So what is going on in all other area where we're not? And in order to find out, we have to develop some type of modeling framework where we can take this spatial temporal variation into account. So that's something my PhD student in Uppsala, Astrid, has been working on and published in Ecological Informatics, that is based on the Sailbuoy data here. So all these small maps here is what is 1 year is the row, and month is the column, and this is the estimated prey field in these different areas and over times based on the Sailbuoy data. And what we did here also was that we used additional Sailbuoy sensors, such as chlorophyll and temperature and salinity, to partly provide explanatory variables to explain the change in fish abundance and fish dynamics in these different areas. Then the next example is on diel vertical migration, DVM, and formation of fish schools. And what we found here, which surprised us is a little bit, is that we know that in nights, fish are dispersed and they feed and they're close to the surface. And in the day, they are typically in schools and they are deeper down and less available to the seabirds, because school ultimately is a mechanism to protect themselves against predators such as seabirds. But what we found here was that diel vertical migration and fish school formation was actually not synchronized. So schools were forming in the early morning, but then already in the late afternoon, they started to disperse again, but still being on a quite deep depth, the fish. And what we further found out was that the maximum seabird foraging effort matched exactly with this event in the afternoon when the schools disappeared, but the fish were still relatively available, and obviously it was light, because one of the reasons to the fish being up close to the surface in the night is that it's dark and they're not visible to the predators. So the three series in the bar plot here is the prey aggregations, which is the schools, and the dives of the common guillemot in green, and the dives of the razorbill or alcatorda in blue. And you can see that both seabirds are maximizing the foraging in the evenings here, where the schools are also much less pronounced than here in the morning and midday. This is a paper in prep. Then I have another PhD student in France who's been working on unsupervised machine learning methods for comparison across these different ecosystems. So both the Hudson Bay and the Bass Strait and the Baltic Sea data. She's compared different algorithms for the automated analysis of these echograms, and particularly to find layers of fish and also distinct fish schools. So this is an example of two methods: the double thresholding method, which is more a parametric method, and the sum, which is a more segmentation, AI-based segmentation method. And it turns out that it's with the same algorithms and not so much tweaking, you can find these schools and layers automatically for all these three ecosystems. And we find also that a higher school presence in the most productive ecosystem, which is the Baltic Sea, which was not very surprising, but still something we find with these methods nicely. And the last section I will want to say a few words about is that we're processing of ecosounder data has traditionally been a very labor-intensive type of analysis, where you look at these echograms and you do the scrutinization, you mark on the echograms what you're actually seeing, and then exporting it to some type of numerical data format. But what we're working on, myself and colleagues now, is to automate a lot of this to make the processing of echosounder data more code-based, and we're using Python for that, because it can become more streamlined and reproducible. So there's been a lot of work going on in developing a Python package called the EcoPipe, and it continues with some more development money currently to add functionalities to that. And we're ourselves in SLU has also been developing some own code on top of EcoPipe, which is called EcoEdge, with the main goal of running things in real time, both on the Sailbuoy but also on research vessels. So you can immediately, if you have the sensor on, you can immediately get the output data. And personally, I think edge computing is a quite exciting area here, because you can get directly insights from what these Sailbuoys and other platforms are collecting. You can build early warning systems, for example, to identify that we've never seen this little fish in this area. Maybe it's worth a short-term fisheries closure, for example. So there's a big potential here for a type of new continuous real-time ecosystem monitoring, and potentially also action based on this data. And we want to bring this together also with the automation we're developing in the seabird colonies to build a center where we combine all these sources into a type of real-time ecosystem information system. And my other vision for this is that we're scaling up these efforts. So clearly, when you've been doing a few of these field sites, I mean, there's logistics involved, of course, but the questions are, we know how to do this now. And there are many other exciting sites where there are seabirds and where there is seabirds fisheries conflict, and where sailbuoys or other USVs could play a very important role in the data collection, and that where there is ongoing seabird work as well. So I'm envisioning a type of global data collection program with focus on top predators and their prey. And I think definitely Sailbuoy could be a game changer in this. So with that said, I want to thank you all for listening, and happy to discuss any questions and research collaborations as well. And obviously I haven't done this myself, so these are collaborators and PhD students in different parts of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jonas. It was a very enlightening, at least for myself, and a very good presentation. I'll be stopping the recording now, so we can move over a little bit to the questions and answer section, and then just give everybody the opportunity to ask questions without being recorded. So.